Well, good morning everybody. I'm Gary from Lantana Removal, Queensland in Narangba. 0449 986 880. Just got some good news. It's now the 28th of August 2018, and I finally got a reasonable response from Moreton Bay Regional Council. When I say a reasonable response, it's a response to my canvassing the councillors as to how the Lantana in their areas got to be in the epic proportions they are. So this is actually from the public health and local laws. Now, it's insanity, these guys here. They were saying that Lantana is classified as a restrictive invasive plant, category 3 under the Biosecurity Act 2014, and must not be given away, sold or released into the environment without a permit. Okay, federal, state, local governments as well as residents are required to take reasonable and practical steps to minimise risk of the plant to meet the requirements of the general biosecurity obligation. They go on to say that it doesn't cover eradication. Okay, it's an interesting play on words and an interesting misrepresentation of the facts. The reality is that they already say you can't release it into the environment. Now, all of this material is growing down hundreds and hundreds of kilometres of roadside, being fed water continuously. Okay, how can you not be releasing it into the environment? The water travels the seeds away and propagates the seeds all over the place. How can you not be releasing it into the environment? These guys, I don't know what goes on with them, that they don't read their own material before they send it. It's completely inaccurate once again. But one of the things I will draw your attention to, that they do say that the council now advises me that if you have any problems with any ingress into your land from their lands, you have the material or any other weeds invading your lands from their lands, to please contact them directly. No problems at all. So from what they're saying there, they're going to do something about it if you tackle them about it. So everybody around Mount Mee, Daybrus, Sanford, Woodford, all places, please go and get onto them. But keep me in the loop, because I'm pretty sure what will happen is they'll actually come out and then go, well, actually, it's low risk. They say it down here, it's low risk. Okay? Now, this low risk, they won't ever tell you where low risk came from, and I want to know where low risk came from, because I've already furnished you guys and them multiple times. Have had that copy of the Children's Health declaration thingy there that says that this material has killed people. So where low risk comes from, I cannot get somebody to tell me who was the one that came up with it, because I want to have a crack at them. So anyway, they also vaguely say that low risk came from the fact that they've lost control of it. That's what they say. So we gave up on it, so we're not going to bother with it. Now, that doesn't actually work. Okay, let me wind that back for you for a second there, because that's pretty important for you to understand. At the very least, the government, in their own state government biosecurity, what's the names of this material, say that this material has a strike rate in excess of 30%. Okay? In excess of 30% growth rate. Now, if you take that and you go, okay, a plant puts out 1,200 seeds per plant, according to them, okay, not my statistics, and it has a 30% strike rate. If we just rounded that up and said it's 1,000, that's 300% expansion rate. Okay? I would say to you that's totally incorrect. I would say it's 50%, so that's getting more around 500 to 600% expansion rate. Now, do you start to see why I get so concerned and so upset and so beside myself about this stuff? Because I see where this stuff is being allowed to grow by these people, and there's absolutely no knowledge within the state government. These guys, otherwise they'd be out there going, oh my God, we better get after this, because this is serious. Okay, a 600% growth rate. Even if you rewind it back to 300%, that is massive. So they're not going to, on those figures, they're not going to have, triple the growth rate. It's going to be 6 times the growth rate. Easily 6 times the growth rate. And that's not even factoring in where they're allowing it to grow within water. That's even worse. Because then that growth rate would be 1 year, okay, 1 cycle. Even by their standards, they say where it's allowed to sit or get access to decent water, it can seed all year round. It could seed 6 to 12 times a year, according to their representation. Where it's on the side of the road and it's getting fed that rain off those sides of those roads really, really significantly, it could seed all year round. Even if you halved it and went, 6 monthly, and then went 6 times 6, what's that to give you? And the real killer of this stuff is the fact that it's allowed that that movement by water. Okay, so the propagation, this stuff didn't double its expansion rate because birds moved it that distance. It expanded double its infestment rates by being washed by water. And because these guys 20 to 30 years ago gave up on doing anything with Lantana, with their documentation, now we have something to very significantly go after the state government and after Moreton Bay Regional Council. But they're just one. All of the councils are equally doing the same game. New South Wales is doing the same things. Okay, I have people constantly contacting me from New South Wales saying that they have exactly the same problems with councils. There's no accountability, and there should be accountability. If I do things as a private citizen or as a private contractor, I've got all sorts of responsibilities or accountabilities. But these guys have zero, according to them. But we can't allow that to continue. We're paying huge amounts of money for their services and don't have any accountability. Well, that's not good enough. On this basis of these things being so badly spread, we now have forced the issue where they've actually responded now. We've actually got hard copies of what they say, and it's incorrect in those things. When even trying to, muddy the waters like they have, the direct responsibility is that the material cannot leave their lands. Okay? And just by it growing there and expanding by 300% is not going to be contained on their lands, and it's being travelled by water. There's that much film footage and actual evidence that you can see graphically how it's just being washed down and across the surfaces into people's lands. There's no denying that that is a serious, serious issue. It's only because of the National Parks and Wildlife and the state forests that they don't want to acknowledge the fact of how much water travels this material. So yeah, that's very good news. So please, everybody, you can take that information, take that material. If you need more information from it, then please get on to me and I can give you more information on what they say and where they say. But it's time to start taking it to them and see whether they'll uphold their word that they said if they're invading your property. And I've had people from Mount Mee contacting me saying, it's destroyed my fence. It's just destroyed all of this section of the front of my property, and the battle it took with the councillor to get anything done was enormous. And then they destroyed my fence in the removal of it after 12 months of battling them. And then I've got to battle them now for my fence. So you look at the way they make this sound like they're going to be good guys, and because they acknowledge their responsibilities, that they're going to come straight out and fix it. Well, the stuff shouldn't be there in the first place. That's what it says, that stuff cannot be released to the environment. If you're not containing it and diminishing the mass, it's growing and expanding. They are not what's-the-naming their obligations at any level. They are saying it themselves. The only other thing that we've got to get to is the state government and Anastasia Palaszczuk and find out why they haven't got back to us about this stuff. They've changed the laws secretly with the not-for-profit organisations being the ones they consulted to represent us as the people. If the state government has written off huge parts of our state, or if the councils have written off huge parts of our states, we need to have a very major push in sharing this information, in asking these questions directly. We now have letters. Start asking these people directly for yourself and saying, well, this expansion of this material. That's the actual state government's research that says it grows by that amount of increase. Then how can somebody put low risk on this? But the thing that you're not getting with that is there's zero being done about it, right? If you just had an acre of this material, how quick is the expansion rate on that? 300%. And if it has access to water all year round, oh my Lord, how much did that just go up by? See, it's a mathematics problem. It doesn't matter how you work it out. It's a, oh my Lord. But, you know, people, with this, the good part that comes from this for Anastasia Palaszczuk is if they want me to shut up, if they want me to stop doing this, then we'll oversee the councils cleaning this stuff up. Because you can't trust those guys to go in and start doing the work. The state government and federal government already put them in that position, and they did this to us. And these laws didn't change, 20 years ago. A lot of this material's been there for 20 years, invading and infesting other people's properties further downstream. It's time that, as the general public, we got very serious. We pay enormous amounts of money for things and don't get the services provided. And these guys just keep walking away from it, and we, for some reason, keep accepting it. But we no longer can do that. I've made Mark Ferner aware of these things. I've asked these questions, and you're still waiting for the answers on what we are going to do about this. We have to have this capital works program put in place. The actual classification of Lantana has to be lifted back up to what it was. Because this zero policy that's across our whole country, with growth rates like 30% on their level, more like 50%. If you averaged it out between where it's being allowed to live in wetlands and on the sides of roads, you're starting to get around 700% growth rate, strike rate. It doesn't matter how you want to look at it. That's how much you're talking about this mass increases. And then you throw into it that everywhere that the Lantana takes over, all of these guys just drive around it and don't even try to deal with that surface anymore. The surfaces that they don't do anything with just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is the problem. As I said before, our works program would end up being just simply managing those surfaces would cut back enormous amounts of these weeds. But the other weeds then join those weeds, and the vine weeds then climb and help the Lantana to climb faster and quicker to destroy our ecology. And then the government says, oh, well, we don't know where the floods came from. We don't know where the droughts come from. It's all from this stuff. There's no penetration of the ground to allow water to infiltrate into the ground. They destroy our subsoil ecology. They absolutely decimate it with every process, fire or poisons. They absolutely decimate it, and then they complain that we have these floods. And then we have the droughts that follow the floods. And we're paying all this money for this because they have huge programs when they've let it get that bad that the cost of actually doing that work is so enormous. Yet we could have been doing that work all the way along, and that's what we have to get in place. Scott Morrison has to turn around, instead of like Malcolm Turnbull was, acknowledge this stuff and set us up to do this stuff, to get these programs in place. Their own people, they're best of their own people, don't even know water traffics this material. They still pretend it doesn't. But you get to the right people and they start to admit, yes, we know it does, but we just don't admit it publicly. Okay, we have these secret deals done with these not-for-profit organisations so that we can poll them and we can make laws that suit that polling instead of the actual information and material from real people and the people actually making their choice. And that's the reason why I circulated that one about having your say. You must have your say. I can't guarantee you they're going to listen to you, but at least if your name is in that ring, then at least you then have a connection to them and they know you're looking. As a minimum thing, even if you sign up to that, have your say, and you simply get their letters sent to you, right, that you're a part of that group, you then are aware of what they're doing, okay? And they know you're watching then. That makes a huge difference. The only thing that will change all of this stuff is public opinion. It's okay for me to share this information with you, but it's only when you get actively involved and you demand those answers that they'll start going, holy hell, he's got now 1,000 people subscribing. He's now got 10,000 people subscribing and interested. Oh my Lord, we're not going to be able to hoodwink these people anymore. And that's the reality of it. We've been lied to and misled for so long that we just accept that's the way they do business. But it's on us to change that system, to demand that they don't keep letting this happen. And that's where we're at. That's why I brought you this information. As far as I'm concerned, it's a major, major improvement, okay? Now I can take the letter to Anastasia Palaszczuk, which I'm doing now, and Scott Morrison, and say to them, you need to deal with these issues of these weeds. Those are the growth rates of the weeds. Now, somebody came up with low risk. You know, whoever came up with low risk should be dealt with incredibly harshly. You know, this is what people are going to remember of us, remember of our time. Whether we actually stood up and we went, you know what, this material is going to take over not 30 million hectares, right, on this basis of what they have. There's nothing involved that they're even going after any significant levels of this material. Okay? They just are ignoring the complete problem. So what will the future hold for us? They've already told you there's nothing, there's nil. Unless I can get this up and running enough, they will never change this cycle. So what will be the top figure? Will it be 100 million hectares? Will it be 1 billion hectares? What will it be? You have to ask yourself the question, and each time they create hybridized Lantana by their interfering it with nature, there's never been a successful, what's the name of those things, where you specifically targeted one of those key things. There's always that shotgun effect that you hit tons of different other plants. Okay, so the biological rubbish they go on with is a load of garbage. It's just scientists funding their own axe to grind. And they play no significant part in this. There's no significant areas of Lantana that have been pulled up. You go and have a look out around those areas and they are thriving. You know, we need to get to the mechanical stuff where we specifically are removing it every single day. There's that much material down the drain being processed, turned into compost, and then respread back across the ground. It needs to be a closed loop cycle that we create, we process, and we apply, and then we rehabilitate the surface as we go. We've got to get more back to having those surfaces covered in grasses so we can sink that material into them. Because we can get grasses on those grounds much quicker than we can get forestry on those grounds. You can turn around and plant grass and forestry and have the forestry take over eventually in time. Doesn't matter. But the forestry is going to take a hell of a long time to get up there, and it will not put anywhere near enough moisture into the ground than what grasses will. So that's where we're at. So I'm very happy with that news. I hope that Anastasia Palaszczuk, the Premier, and the New South Wales Premier, and the Mark Furner, and the Attorney General's Office, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Scott Morrison, I hope all of them suddenly go, you know what, we need to get serious about this and help this guy get these things done. Nobody has experience like I do of getting this material out of the areas that it must come out of first. It has to be gone from the high country and the places that it has access to water. Now that's enormous amounts of our country, but we have to get onto that and we have to meet that growth level, or else we are still losing our country. And this isn't the only weed. They're doing an equally as great job of all of the other 31 of them. And nobody is raising a ruckus. I'm the only one out here raising a ruckus and going, hold on, now we got a ladder. Yeah, let's go and put them to the test. Somebody around Mount Me and that must be interested in having the council deal with their Lantana invading their property. But that isn't good enough. I'd love for somebody to turn around and say, well, I just don't want it there invading my property, okay? And let's see what they actually do about it, because that's the next test. And on that note, they also say in here that they do not They say they have never prosecuted anybody. I've had people come to me saying they've been prosecuted. I've had other people come to me and said, only recently at Cedar Creek, saying that they had been handed a huge, well, they said a fine, right? Not a potential fine, a fine for the Lantana. Now, these guys are telling a different story, and I believe the person I was speaking to, but at that point, I didn't get their details. So if you're watching, please contact me. Or anybody else who has been prosecuted by Morton, please get in touch with me, because I would dearly like to know the details. Because do not accept that councils tell you the truth. Okay? There's enough things that I've already shown you that are not true about what we're told as fact. They act illegally continuously, and we need to deal with that. Anyway, thank you very much for popping in. We'll talk to you later. I'm Gary. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, I'm Gary from Lantana Removal, Queensland. Thank you very much for having watched that video. Please like our videos, please share them, please share our information. We work out of Narangba, and we eradicate Lantana and have done for 40 years. Okay, my phone number is 0449 986 880. And you can check us out on Facebook at Lantana Removal Queensland, and on our website at www.lantanaremovalqueensland.com.au. Thank you very much for popping in. Catch you later.